Welcome back to the channel, The Real Ish. If you are new here, I discuss all things horror on this channel, whether it's horror movies, true crime stories, movies that were inspired by true horror stories. We touch some real ish on this channel, real topics, real opinions. So today's video is gonna be touching on horror movies that were inspired by true events, true horror stories, true crime stories. I have 4 different movies I'm gonna talk about in this video. Okay, so the first movie that I'm gonna talk about that was inspired by true events is the movie The Strangers. It came out in 2008. It's an American psychological horror film. It was written and directed by Brian Bertino, if I'm saying his name right. Okay, so if you're not familiar with The Strangers, here's a quick overview of what the movie is about. The film follows a couple whose stay at a vacation home is disrupted by 3 masked intruders who infiltrate the home one night. It is the first installment. The screenplay was inspired by 2 real-life events: the multi-homicide Manson family Tate murders and the series of break-ins that occurred in Bertino's neighborhood as a child. Okay, so with the overview already given, let's jump into what inspired the movie. Okay, one of the things that inspired the movie is the Manson murders. If you're not aware of the Manson family, it is Charles Manson and the people that were following him. It's a cult. Let's get into a little background on that just a little bit. It says the Manson family was a commune, a gang, a cult led by the criminal Charles Manson that was active in California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. The group, at its peak, consisted of approximately 100 followers who lived in an unconventional lifestyle, frequently using hallucinogens such as LSD. Most were young women from middle-class backgrounds, many of whom were attracted by the hippie counterculture. They were just basically, like, I guess, intrigued by Manson's teachings, I guess. It said they took the lives of at least 9 people and that they may have done as many as 24. That's crazy. I think a lot of us are familiar with Charles Manson, and it's been a lot of documentaries on him, a lot of you know, true crime movies and stories on him, and it's just crazy. Okay, so one of the very most like popular lives that they took, the Manson family, was of actress Sharon Tate. She was at her home in Los Angeles. It says what happened to Sharon Tate is one of the main things that inspired the movie The Strangers. Okay, I knew that it was based off true events. I knew about this one, but I didn't know about the next one. And just for the video, just for background, I'm gonna touch on what they did to Sharon Tate, just a little bit. It says on August 9th, 1969, Sharon Tate and 4 others were taken out by members of the Manson family. They were in the home she shared with Polanski. I remember that by, I think, reading or seeing a documentary or something like that. I remember these details. He was away, Polanski was away, and she was also 8.5 months pregnant. This is one of the most like crazy stories that you would never, it won't ever go away. You will always remember what happened to Sharon Tate, as well as all the others, you know, but like since she was famous, this they always bring it up. They always making something about it. Alright, so we're gonna jump into the next thing that inspired the movie The Strangers. It said the second inspiration for The Strangers was a true story in 1981, Ketty Cabin Murders, which saw 4 people that were killed in a small California resort town. Disturbingly, the motive for those, it was unknown why that happened, basically, as the Ketty Police Department never caught the real life people that, you know, that did it. Even now the case remains unsolved. Obvious similarities to The Strangers premise. You know, it says it's obvious that The Strangers took some of that because of the 3 masked assailants and the strangers wandering off into the morning chill after massacring the couple simply because they were home. And in another video, I mentioned some movies that were scary, or the scariest movies or something like that, and I mentioned The Strangers because to me that one is pretty scary, just for the fact of how it says They simply did what they did because they were home. No other reason, no other explanation. Not saying that there should be any good explanation to take the lives of others, but that's just insane, because just because you were home is the reason why we came in and did what we did. That's deep. Okay, so the next movie that we're gonna jump into that was based off of true story is the Amityville Horror. I think we're all familiar with the Amityville Horror. If not, here is a small overview of the movie. The Amityville Horror is a book by American author Jay Anson, published September 1977. It is also the basis of a series of films released from 1979 onward. The book is based on the claims of paranormal experiences by the Lutz family, but has led to controversy and lawsuits over its truthfulness. Okay, let's jump into that a little bit more. So basically on November 13th, 1974, 23-year-old DeFeo, if I'm saying it right, I'm just gonna say 23-year-old Ronald Jr. shot unalived 6 members of his family at their home. He lived at 112 Ocean Avenue, a large Dutch colonial house situated in a suburban neighborhood in Amityville on the south of Long Island, New York. After a trial lasting 7 weeks, he was convicted of second-degree murder in November 1975 and sentenced to 6 terms of 25 years to life in prison. He died in prison in March 2021. In December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz moved into the house with their 3 children and dog, Harry. After 28 years, the Lutzes fled the house, claiming to have been terrorized by paranormal phenomena while living there. So, I don't know. Okay, let's go a little deeper into uncovering this true story. It says, now this is the book, okay? The book describes the house, as I stated, the 112 Ocean Avenue. It was empty for 13 months after the DeFeo unaliving, his family. In 1975, as I stated, George and Kathleen Lutz bought the house, what was considered to be a bargain price of $80,000. The 5-bedroom house was built in Dutch colonial style, as stated already, and it had a swimming pool and a boathouse. It was located on the canal. George and Kathy married July 1975 and each had their own homes, but wanted to start fresh with new property. Kathy had 3 children from a previous marriage: Daniel, 9, Christopher, 7, and Melissa, Missy, 5. They owned a crossbreed dog named Harry. During their first inspection of the house, the real estate broker told them about what happened before with the previous family and asked if it would affect their decision. After discussing the matter, it would not be a problem. They moved in on December 18th. Much of the previous family's furniture was still in the house because it was included $400 as a part of the deal. A friend of George Lutz learned about the history of the house and insisted on having it blessed. At the time, George was not a practicing Methodist and had no experience of what this would entail. Kathy was a non-practicing Catholic and explained the process. George knew that a Catholic priest named Father Ray who agreed to carry out the house blessing. And in the book, it was a real life priest, Father Ralph J. is referred to, whoever did this. So continuing on, it said that the father arrived to perform the blessing. George and Kathy were unpacking their belongings on the afternoon of December 18th, 1975, and went into the building to carry out the rites. When he flicked the first holy water and began to pray, he heard a masculine voice demand that he get out. When leaving the house, Father did not mention this incident to neither Kathy or George. On the 24th, the father called George and advised him to stay out of the second floor room where he heard the mysterious voice, the former bedroom of Mark and John Matthew DeFeo from the previous family, and Kathy planned using that as a sewing room. Ironically, the call was cut short by static. Following the visit to his house, Father was allegedly developed a high fever of blisters on his hands similar to stigmata. At first, George and Kathy experienced nothing unusual in the house, talking about their experiences, subsequently reported as if they were, that's, backstory really into it. I've never read the book. I've only seen the movies, and it's been numerous movies, you know, but there are a lot of disputes over the accuracy of what happened. Is some information on Wikipedia about the role of the father who was supposed to bless the house, and whether, you know, in an affidavit during the lawsuit in the 70s, you know, that was his only contact with the Lutzes concerning the matter that had been by telephone. Other accounts say that the father did visit the house, but experienced nothing unusual there. So it's really, you know, you can go on Wikipedia yourself or Google, wherever, and try to find out the mystery between this, because if I go down this rabbit hole, I will probably be there forever trying to figure this out, and this video will be even longer. So that's just a little more background on it. It's really, no one knows. Only the people know who were there and what happened, and in my eyes, I'm going to still say that it's a true horror story that was turned into a movie, okay? So let's move on to the next movie. All right, the next movie that we're going to discuss that was based off of a true story is The Haunting in Connecticut. That came out in 2009. I saw that back then. It was a pretty good movie. Okay, if you haven't seen it, The Haunting in Connecticut is about a family who is forced to relocate for their son's health. They begin experiencing supernatural behavior in their new home and uncover a sinister history. Alright, so I typed some stuff in, did a little research, and we're about to find out if this is really based off of a true story, and if so, what is it about and what happened. Okay, so going on Wikipedia, it gives you a little background. It actually gives you a lot of background, but it says the film is alleged to be about Carmen Snedeker, if I'm saying it right, and her family, though Ray Garthen, the author of In a Dark Place, the story of a true haunting, has publicly distanced himself from the accuracy of the events he depicted in the book. The film's story follows the fictional Campbells as they move into a house to mitigate the strains of travel on their cancer-stricken son, Matt. The family soon becomes haunted by violent and traumatic events from supernatural forces occupying the house. The film was moderately successful, grossing about $78 million at the box office. It received generally unfavorable views. Okay, so adding a little bit to this, this is an article from ABC News from 2009. It says the film The Haunting in Connecticut tells the story of the Snedeker family who in 1986 rented an old house in Connecticut. Alan and Carmen Snedeker moved in with their daughter and 3 young sons. While exploring their new home, Carmen found strange items in the basement, tools used by morticians. The family soon discovered, to their horror, that their home had once been a funeral parlor. Oh my gosh. And the eldest son began seeing ghosts and terrifying visions. The experiences spread to other family members and got worse. Both parents said that they were raped and sodomized by demons. One day, as Carmen mopped the kitchen floor, the water suddenly turned blood red and smelled of decaying flesh and so on. Wow. See, now I knew that it was based off of a true story, but back then when I watched it, I had no idea that it was about this. You know, I never looked up the story, you know, the exact story of what happened. This is crazy. Yeah. So that's basically, you know, the gist of that. That's insane. If I were to move to a place and find out that it used to be a funeral parlor, I would not have stayed. It says that the family stayed for 2 years before they decided to leave. So they had to endure all that. No, I would have left immediately. That's crazy. Okay, so here's one more. One of my favorite movies, A Nightmare on Elm Street. I just realized recently that it's loosely based on true stories, including newspaper articles and the director's personal experiences. Okay, here's some newspaper articles. It says the Los Angeles Times published articles in the 1970s about refugees who died in their sleep after fleeing war and genocide in South Asia. Medical authorities call this phenomena Asian death syndrome. The articles describe men who were afraid to sleep. They tried to stay awake for days and were found screaming in their sleep. Okay, and these are the director Wes Craven's experiences on how he came up with this movie. Director Wes Craven was inspired by his own childhood experiences. I remember reading this. It says he was startled by an old man on the street, which inspired the aesthetic of Freddy Krueger. He also drew inspiration from a childhood bully named Fred Krueger. Craven was also inspired by the song Dream Weaver by Gary Wright, which provided an artistic setting and synthesizer riff for the movie soundtrack. Craven recalled a man walking down the street past his childhood home one night. He knew somebody was watching him and turned to meet his eyes with a frightening, creepy look. The man was wearing a battered fedora, which Craven ultimately gave to Freddy to add to his frightening allure. The ideas and many more all went to the film, giving a Nightmare on Elm Street layered, detailed quality that makes it one of the most frightening horror films in 1980s and a classic to this day. Those are all creepy, you know, in their own way, all of the true stories. And you know, whether they're real or not, like most of them are though. I think the only one that they're questioning if they had a real true basis to it was Amityville. Like I think they said the killings were real, but the paranormal stuff wasn't. I don't know. No one really knows but the people who were there, and they know what happened. So yeah, man, I just wanted to do this video because there's just so many like crazy horror stories out there, crazy true stories, crazy true crime stories that have been an inspiration to a lot of movies. And it's sad that there's so many out there like that, but you know, that's the world we live in. And I just wanted to do a video and touch on some of those. It's so many more out there, so I may do a part 2 to this. Okay, if you guys like this video, please like it, let me know. And this is a fairly new channel, so I'm just now trying to get into it, get a feel of it, and try to figure out what all I want to post on here. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. I post on here every week and sometimes twice a week. All right, subscribe, hit the bell, comment, like this video, share this video, and I thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. God bless.